Hello again, everyone. Tom Nagorski in the Cipher Brief virtual studio for a conversation about that signal leak to an Atlantic reporter and the conversations that were had about pending attacks on the Houthis in Yemen, and just trying to get a better understanding of some of the security issues that were in play there, many of which were discussed at the threat assessment hearings this week. We're joined by John McLaughlin, Cipher Brief expert and former acting director of the CIA. John, let me just baseline question for you to start with. When you first learned earlier this week that an Atlantic reporter was in the room, as it were, for these conversations and read the initial reports, what was your gut reaction in terms of severity or importance of the issue that was put forth?
Well, apart from surprise that a reporter had inadvertently, I assume, been included, my gut reaction was, as many people felt, uh, astonishment that they would be discussing these kinds of details on an app like Signal, because Signal is more secure than most apps, but there have been warnings from our own government and also from foreign governments about the danger of um, foreign intelligence services seeking to break into Signal. So,
Russians in particular, right?
Russians in particular, I believe the Germans have said that they have a sense that Russia is penetrating Signal in their country. So, even though it is an app that many of us use for secure communication, not for classified matters or matters of military planning. So it
So I
was
want to.
astonishing to me that that would be used, knowing that, thinking back to my own time in government, that you can hardly go anywhere as a senior official without having at your hand some means of secure communication, secure phones, encrypted uh, email, and so forth. So that was my reaction.
Recognizing excellence in national security. The Cipher Brief Honors Dinner celebrates those who've made a real difference in protecting our nation. It's an unforgettable evening with top leaders in the field. Join us in honoring these remarkable contributions. Reserve your seat now at cipherbriefhonors.com.
So John, what would be, granted, Signal wasn't around when you were in charge, but what would be an appropriate or okay communication for folks to be having on that platform?
Well, I don't want to contradict the CIA director who may know more about this than I do, but my hunch is that that platform is not authorized for classified communication at CIA. My hunch is that it's the kind of platform a CIA officer might use, say, to make an appointment for lunch with someone when they don't necessarily want their identity floating around in open communications, or maybe if a CIA officer was authorized to speak with someone in the media, they might do it on that platform about issues that are unclassified. I would call it a platform that probably is used for what could be called um, sensitive, unclassified material.
Hmm. Now, to the question of classified, this was another thing that was a bit hard for some of us to wrap our heads around. But CIA Director Ratcliffe and head of the ODNI, Tulsi Gabbard, both said repeatedly that the material in this chat was not classified. And well, I'll stop there. What does that, is there a technicality here on classified? Is that material that should have been classified? It's hard to understand sometimes when you heard that.
Well, there are a lot of legally worded documents that define what's classified and not classified. I would say a common sense standard applies here. By any standard that I would apply just based on common sense, the material that's since been released, and in fact, the original material that was released before the latest details, by any common sense standard, would be classified because it is deliberative material among national security officials, um, which at minimum would be classified secret, And once you start talking about um, weapon systems, delivery times, um, battle damage assessment, all of those things were included in the latest details to come out. That's by any definition that I'm aware of, that is classified material. And
But but
probably
but
at a very high level because it is certainly top secret or more.
and just to
Because it's not material you want to, it's pretty simple standard. It's not material that you want to be shared with an adversary that can interrupt your planning and possibly thwart your planning. And nor do you want adversaries to see your deliberative process, that is how you make decisions. Because in combat, international affairs, competition, negotiation, secrecy and ambiguity are your weapons. So you don't want them out there. It's just common sense, really.
right. But so not again to your point, not meaning to question anybody's integrity who were making those statements, but when both Director Gabbard and Director Ratcliffe said it wasn't, presumably that means not necessarily that it shouldn't have been, but just that technically nobody had classified it. Is that the point?
I don't know what they mean. I really
Uh-huh.
don't. One possibility is that, well, let's be clear. They are very new in their jobs, and they are not deeply experienced in these jobs. The most charitable interpretation you could make would be that they are somewhat uncertain about what's classified or confused about what's classified or haven't yet developed their own standard for what's classified. But this is not rocket science. I mean, it's you
Hmm.
don't tell the enemy what you're going to do, and you certainly don't give them details about it. Now, they weren't. They thought they were on some sort of secure platform, but the problem is that you can't be sure that platform is secure. The encryption is good, but on the other hand, it's absolutely certain that foreign intelligence services are seeking access to the instruments, to the phones themselves. Once they're in your phone with malware or something, then the app is no longer secure because they don't have to break the encryption. They simply have to read what you're saying on your phone. And if one phone in a group of, say, 8 or 9 or 10, if one phone is compromised, they all are compromised.
Hmm.
So um, again, I think it's just common sense, and I, I don't know why they would say it's unclassified, except that they are also not very experienced in um, dealing with harsh congressional testimony, even though a couple of them have been in the position of dealing it out.
Right.
Um, but when they walked into that hearing yesterday, I knew from experience, having been, I've been in positions in the government where we made mistakes, and your best strategy is always to just acknowledge it. It's a basic principle of crisis management. When you make a mistake, stop it. Don't dig the hole deeper. Stop it by saying it was a mistake. We understand what went wrong. We will correct it. It will never happen again. And most people understand that as human beings, that those things occur. So I when they went into that hearing yesterday, I said to a friend, okay, we're going to see the Washington Cuisinart in action.
Hmm.
Everyone falls into the Cuisinart now and then when something
Wow.
goes.
I've never heard that expression, the Washington Cuisinart. So,
It's a
in terms
term
of
of art
long,
among former
yeah,
intelligence officers who've been in controversies.
I can imagine. In terms of longer term ramifications, to your point, presumably this is a learning moment, a lesson, a teachable moment, whatever you want to call it. Or are there longer term implications of this, do you think? I mean, I'm imagining there will never again in this administration, this group of people, be a signal chat, probably about anything, but certainly not about plans to attack an adversary.
I'm assuming that's what they will conclude, that signal will now be off the table. And I'm sure they all wish they could take this back. Another looming question here, which the administration has to deal with, is by their own professions prior to the inauguration of the administration and prior to their confirmations, many of them, including the FBI director and the Attorney General, made a great deal of their conviction that classified information needed to be protected and that those who violated that or put it at risk need to be prosecuted, examined, or whatever. There need to be consequences.
Right.
So the next difficult question for them to work through is, are they going to act on that or not? And, to some degree, when you say it's not classified, it's in the category that we often see from uh, the administration, which is the category of what you saw with your own eyes did not happen. What you heard with your own ears did not take place.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just come back to common sense here, and I think it's a new administration caught in a controversy. One can only hope they will learn from it and take appropriate action.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. John McLaughlin, thank you so much for being with us. Always appreciate your insights. Thanks again.